People are doing 21-day water fasts. No food, 3 weeks. Just water.
And the internet is telling them it will heal their gut, reverse aging, cure inflammation, reset their whole body.
But here is the part almost nobody mentions. The most dangerous moment in all of this is not the 3 weeks without food.
It is the first meal after. That is the part that can actually kill you, and we will come back to it.
So today we are not telling you fasting is good or bad. We are telling you where the actual science stops and where the claims just keep going anyway.
There is a real gap there, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. One quick note first. This is not medical advice, and of all the wellness trends, this is the one that can genuinely hurt you.
Let's start with what's real, because fasting research isn't fake. It's legitimate, it's peer-reviewed, and there's a lot of it.
Right. The headline mechanism everyone cites is a cellular cleanup process called autophagy. Your cells break down damaged components and recycle the parts.
And that's not woo, that's Nobel Prize science. 2016, a scientist named Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine for working out how autophagy actually functions.
Now, here's where I have to correct something we almost said in an earlier draft of this episode, because we caught ourselves doing the exact thing we're about to criticize.
Go on.
You've seen the graphics. Autophagy switches on at 16 hours, peaks at 24, doubles at 48, very confident numbers, very clean chart.
I've seen that chart maybe 200 times.
Those numbers are not established in humans. Ohsumi's prize-winning work was in yeast. Most of the timeline research is animal and cell culture work. Measuring autophagy in a living human is genuinely difficult. It usually means taking a tissue biopsy and looking at protein markers.
So the process is real, the Nobel is real, but the specific clock everybody quotes is largely extrapolated.
Extrapolated from mice mostly, which doesn't make it wrong, it makes it unproven. And there's a difference, and that difference is the entire subject of this episode.
Okay, so if we set the autophagy clock aside, what's actually well supported?
Shorter fasting windows. And this evidence is genuinely decent. Time-restricted eating, 16 or 18-hour windows, has been studied a lot in humans in actual randomized trials.
And it shows what?
Modest improvements in insulin sensitivity, better blood pressure, better triglycerides, better blood sugar control in people with metabolic issues.
Which sounds great, but I want to add the honest asterisk, because I think it matters.
Please.
A lot of those improvements track with weight loss. When you compress your eating window, most people eat less without counting anything. So some of the benefit is fasting, and some of it is just you ate fewer calories.
And when researchers compare time-restricted eating head-to-head against plain old calorie counting, the weight loss usually comes out about the same.
So fasting isn't magic. It's a delivery mechanism for eating less, and a pretty elegant one, because you don't have to log anything.
The adherence angle is underrated, honestly. The best diet is the one you'll still be doing in a year. And skipping breakfast is a lot easier to sustain than weighing chicken breasts.
So a 16-hour fast, which is basically just not eating breakfast, is already doing something measurable.
Which is the part that gets lost. That's not a 21-day commitment, that's a Tuesday.
Okay, but here's where people make the jump. If 16 hours is good and 48 hours is better, then 21 days must be incredible.
That's the leap. And I want to be fair, it's not a crazy thought. There is research on longer fasts. It's just not on 21 days.
Where does the real research actually cluster?
Around a handful of days. There's a body of work on supervised fasting in the 5 to 10-day range, and some clinical programs in Europe that have run periodic fasting for decades under medical supervision.
And what do those find?
Real weight loss in the range of several percent of body weight over about 10 days. Improvements in blood pressure, changes in circulating proteins that researchers find genuinely interesting.
Including something about Alzheimer's, right? I've seen that cited a lot.
Some studies have reported changes in amyloid beta, the protein associated with brain plaques. And that is interesting, but I want to be careful with how far I take that.
Careful how?
A change in a circulating protein marker is not the same as preventing a disease. That's a hypothesis generator, not a result. If someone tells you fasting prevents Alzheimer's, they've skipped about 4 steps of evidence.
Here's the other claim I've heard attached to those studies, and I want you to check me on it. That people keep their muscle and bone intact through an extended fast.
That one's overstated. Your body does have protein-sparing mechanisms. When you're in prolonged fasting, you shift heavily toward burning fat and producing ketones, and that spares some muscle compared to what you'd otherwise lose.
Spares some, not all.
Not all. Extended water-only fasting does cause meaningful lean mass loss. Some of the early weight drop is also water and glycogen. So the honest version is you lose less muscle than you might expect, not you lose no muscle.
And that matters more as you get older.
It matters a lot as you get older. Muscle is not just aesthetic, it's metabolic health, it's insulin sensitivity, it's whether you can get off the floor at 80. Losing it quickly and regaining it as fat is a genuinely bad trade.
Okay, so let's say someone hears all that and says, fine, the benefits are real, sign me up for 10 days. What's the catch?
The catch is that the same studies showing benefit also show the body doing something that sounds contradictory. In some of that research, fasting also triggered an acute inflammatory response. Markers like C-reactive protein went up.
Wait, so the thing that's supposed to reduce inflammation increased inflammation?
In the short term, in some measures, yes. Your body is under a significant stressor. That's what a stressor does.
So it's not fasting is purely healing.
It's more complicated than either side wants it to be. And honestly, that's usually the sign you're looking at real science instead of a headline. Real findings are messy, headlines are clean.
All right, here's the thing that actually bothers me most about the 21-day claims. Every single one of those supervised studies, the ones with the real results, happened inside a facility.
24-hour medical supervision. Vitals checked regularly, blood work throughout, electrolytes monitored.
And screening before you even start.
Serious screening. A doctor screens you out if you're on certain medications, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, if you're diabetic, if you have a heart condition, if you have a history of an eating disorder, if you're underweight.
Say more about the eating disorder piece, because I think that one gets waved past.
It's the one I'd underline hardest. For someone with a history of disordered eating, a rigid rule about when you're allowed to eat isn't a neutral health experiment. It can be the on-ramp back into something dangerous. That's not a footnote, that's a genuine contraindication.
So the studies that show benefit are describing a completely different situation than someone doing this alone at home because they saw a video.
Completely different. Same word, fasting. Totally different activity.
And nobody talks about the part that comes after the fast, which might honestly be the more dangerous part.
Refeeding syndrome.
Explain it properly, because I think most people have heard the phrase and have no idea what it actually is.
So during an extended fast, your body shifts its whole metabolic mode. Insulin drops way down, you're running on fat and ketones, and your stores of certain minerals get depleted even if the levels in your blood look normal.
Which is the sneaky part.
That's the trap. Your blood work can look fine while your total body stores of phosphate, potassium, and magnesium are quietly depleted. Then you eat a real meal. Carbohydrates hit, insulin spikes, and your cells suddenly pull those minerals out of your bloodstream all at once.
And the blood levels crash.
They can crash fast, low phosphate especially. And that can cause heart rhythm problems, breathing problems, seizures, confusion. It can be fatal. This is a recognized clinical syndrome with actual hospital protocols around it.
That's not internet fear-mongering.
It's the literal reason every supervised study has a guided refeeding protocol on the back end. Days of carefully staged reintroduction. Small amounts, specific foods, sometimes supplementation with thiamine and electrolytes before food even starts.
5 days of guided refeeding after a 10-day fast.
Roughly that order of magnitude, yes. Which should tell you how seriously the clinical world takes the back end of this.
So if someone does 21 days alone and then just eats a big celebratory meal,
that's the actual danger zone. And here's the part that I find genuinely chilling. It's not day 10 of not eating, it's day 1 of eating again.
the moment that feels like the reward is the moment of highest risk.
And it's the moment with the least content about it. Nobody's filming their careful 30-gram portion of broth on day 22. They're filming the burger.
Can we back up and define something? Because I think there's a conflation happening that actually matters.
Which one?
Water fasting versus what a lot of those European clinics actually do. Because people cite those programs as evidence for water-only fasting.
And they're often not water only. Several of the best-known supervised fasting programs allow a small amount of intake, juice, broth, a couple hundred calories a day.
So it's a modified fast.
It's a modified fast. And that distinction isn't pedantic. A small amount of carbohydrate and electrolytes changes the physiology, and it changes the safety profile.
So when someone says there are decades of clinical data on extended fasting and uses that to justify 21 days of nothing but water,
they may be citing data from a protocol that isn't the thing they're doing. Same category, different intervention.
that's the gap again.
It's the gap again, one level deeper.
Okay, walk me through what actually happens to the body over an extended fast, roughly.
Roughly, and with the caveat that individual variation is large. The first day or so, you're burning through stored glycogen, which is your accessible carbohydrate, sitting in your liver and muscles.
And glycogen holds water?
Glycogen holds water, which is why the scale drops dramatically in the first 2 or 3 days, and people think it's fat. Most of it isn't. It's water and glycogen.
Then what?
Then you shift toward fat as your primary fuel, and your liver starts producing ketones, which your brain can run on. That transition is where a lot of people feel genuinely rough: headaches, irritability, fatigue.
The famous fasting flu.
And a lot of that is electrolytes, not some mystical detox. You're losing sodium, potassium, and magnesium, partly because low insulin makes your kidneys excrete more sodium.
Which is why people faint.
That's a big one. Blood pressure drops, you stand up too quickly, and you're on the floor. In a clinic, somebody catches that. Alone in your kitchen, you catch the counter on the way down.
What are the signs someone should stop immediately if we're being responsible about this?
Heart palpitations or an irregular heartbeat, fainting or repeated near fainting, confusion, severe weakness, chest pain, any of those, and it's over, and it's a medical question, not a willpower question.
And the instinct in a lot of that community is to treat those as signs it's working.
Which is the most dangerous framing in the whole space. Reinterpreting warning signs as progress. If your body is telling you something is wrong, that's data, not weakness.
One more thing on medications, because I think that's the most common way this goes wrong for ordinary people.
Blood pressure medication and diabetes medication especially. If you're on insulin or a sulfonylurea and you stop eating, you can drive your blood sugar dangerously low.
And that's not a maybe.
That's a well-understood interaction. Same with blood pressure drugs. Fasting tends to lower blood pressure on its own, so stacking medication on top of that can drop you further than anyone intended.
So the person most likely to be attracted to this content
is often the person with a metabolic condition who's on exactly those medications. The overlap between who wants this and who's most at risk from it is uncomfortably high.
Let's talk about why the online picture is so distorted, because I don't think most of it is malicious.
Mostly it isn't. It's selection. Think about who posts a 21-day fasting video.
Someone who finished it.
Someone who finished it and felt great. The person who quit on day 4 doesn't post. The person who ended up in an emergency room definitely doesn't post. So the visible sample is filtered down to the people it went well for.
Survivorship bias, basically.
Textbook survivorship bias. And then the format rewards the extreme. A video called "I fasted 21 days" outperforms a video called "I moved dinner an hour earlier and my triglycerides improved slightly."
Even though the second one is the more useful video for almost everybody watching.
The useful advice is boring, and boring loses to dramatic. That's not a conspiracy, that's just how attention works.
So where does that leave someone listening who's genuinely curious about fasting?
Honestly, the research is pretty clear that the shorter windows get you most of the benefits people are chasing with the extreme versions. 16, 18 hours. Better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation over time, easier weight management with dramatically less risk.
So the boring answer is the correct answer.
The boring answer is usually the correct answer. And if you're doing it, do it with protein and resistance training, so what you lose is fat and not muscle.
What about someone who's still drawn to something longer? Because that person exists and telling them no isn't going to work.
Then the answer is supervision, not willpower. If you want to do an extended fast, do it the way the studies did it, with a doctor who screens you first, monitors you during, and manages the refeeding after.
Which costs money and isn't as exciting as doing it because a video told you to.
It isn't. But the alternative is running an uncontrolled experiment on the one body you have.
Let me try to pull out the transferable part here, because I think this episode isn't really about fasting.
Go for it.
If a claim tells you something works because of a study, ask what the study actually tested. A lot of extended fasting content is citing research on 3-day or 10-day supervised fasts, and then applying it to a 21-day fast that nobody has studied in people at home.
And ask who was in the study. Screened, healthy, monitored volunteers are not the same population as whoever is watching the video.
Ask how many people. Ask how long. Ask whether the outcome was a real health event or a marker in a blood test.
And ask what happened after. Because with fasting specifically, the protocol on the back end is where the risk lives, and it's the part that never makes it into the content.
That gap between what was tested and what's being claimed is worth checking every single time, not just with fasting.
That's the skill. Everything else is details.
So let's land it. Fasting is real. The short-term science is genuinely solid. The extreme versions exist in a much narrower, much more supervised lane than the internet suggests.
The autophagy clock everyone quotes is mostly extrapolated from animals. The muscle preservation is partial, not total. And the most dangerous moment isn't the fast, it's the meal that ends it.
Know the line between what's proven and what's just confidently stated.
And if someone won't tell you where that line is, that tells you something too.
That's the episode. If this was useful, let us know what topic you want us to fact check next.